And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Back to the Future, Dice Through Time. Now, if you're watching this video and you say, Tom, you just reviewed this. No, earlier I reviewed Back to the Future, Back in Time. They're different games, and in fact, today I'm also putting up a video that compares the two of them, mostly because they're the same theme. But they are different games, and we're going to talk about the comparison in that video. I want to speak specifically about this one, Back to the Future, Dice Through Time. Now, I think we can all agree that Back to the Future trilogy of movies is one of the greatest set of movies ever made. And it's a really cool thing about time travel. Don't think about the time travel too hard. It's just a lot of fun. It's hard to put time travel into a game, but this game attempts to do it. It has stuff from all three movies in it. You are playing Doc and Marty as they travel around trying to get things to the right spots. It's a cooperative game where players are working together, and also what I call a pick up and deliver game, where you're going to go grab something from one spot and move it to another. It's also dice rolling, a lot of dice rolling. Here's how it plays. You'll have to decide what kind of game you're going to play, how hard or easy it is. There's a bunch of item cards for each of the different years, 1885, 1955, 1985, and 2015. If you want to play the most difficult of games, you play with all five. A normal game, 3. Easy game, only 2 cards per area. And then you'll put these cards here, and you have to get these cards and deliver them to the right spot. So for example, this is the Clock Tower Flyer. This needs to go to the Clock Tower in 1985. While here I have Marty's letter, and this needs to go in Lou's Cafe in 1955. And here we have Doc's letter, which needs to go to the Clock Tower in 1885. Each player is going to be Marty and the Doc from one period of time. And so you have a color that matches that, as well as some pictures of the different people involved. And you're also going to get a set of dice that match your character. Your DeLorean is going to start at the Clock Tower in your time period, and also there's going to be a biff for each time period, and they start in different locations. It tells you on the board. So that's how the game ends, is by you if you run out of time, then everyone's going to lose. If you deliver all the items that you need to deliver from each of the time periods, then players win. Each turn of the game, players are going to be rolling their dice, but before they roll the dice, you're going to draw a certain number of events off the pile. So it depends on the number of players. So for 4 players, we draw 8 events. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to look at each of these events. Now, some of these events are going to be things that affect everybody. So for example, this says players roll 1 less die this round. That's a bad event. Here, after rolling, players may re-roll any number of their dice once. Well, that's a good event. Then we have events that go in different spots. So here's Doc builds a DeLorean. This is put in Doc's lab in 1985, so I'll put that there. Here we have the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. This goes to the Hill Valley High School in 1955. Doc falls in love with Claire. Aw. That goes to the schoolhouse in 1885. We have a showdown with Mad Dog Tannen. That goes in 1885 in the saloon. And by the way, when Doc falls in love with Claire here, it shows the Biff token. So the Biff token will move to that spot. And Doc saves Marty at the Clock Tower under construction in 1885. And Griff tries to recruit Marty Jr. And this is in the Cafes 88 in 2015. Now, what players are going to be doing on their turn, like I said, is they're going to roll dice, and in turn order, players are going to be using these dice to do various things. Each die side has something you can do. So, the flux capacitor, when you roll that, you are allowed to move from one zone to another zone in the same location. So if I was at Marty's house here, I can move up to Lou's Cafe here. If I'm in the Clock Tower, I can move to the Clock Tower here. But, woe betide you, you will have to put down some of these tokens that you will place if you ever go to the same spot as someone else. These are paradox tokens, and they're not good. But sometimes you just need to cross your own path, because essentially everyone's playing the same 2 characters just in different times. You can spend any die you want to move to an adjacent location in this same year. So you can spend any die you want to move around in the same time frame, but to go from one to the other, you need to spend a flux capacitor. You can spend lightning bolts to re-roll any unspent dice of your choice. You can spend the arrows on here to go to any location in your current year. So any die lets you move to an adjacent one, but an arrow will let me move all the way to the other end. You can spend a fist to punch Biff. If you're in the same spot as a Biff, you can send Biff to another location in the same year. You want to get rid of him. And you can also spend Doc Brown's symbol to get rid of 2 paradox tokens that are on the board. And there's going to be a lot of paradox tokens showing up. Now what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to these different problems that will show up. So here Griff tries to recruit Marty Jr. To stop this problem, I need to play 2 icons. I need to play a wrench and I need to play an arrow. If I do so, I will get rid of this card. But there's a couple rules about that. First of all, Biff can't be on the card, so you're going to need to move Biff away. Secondly, if you have 1 or more cards of the same type, so here Marty skateboards to school, I will need to spend all 3 tokens. If there's 2 cards there, you have to use all the tokens to get rid of them. Thirdly, if you have a wrench, you can use a wrench as any icon when solving this. You can also use Mr. Fusion. Mr. Fusion just says if you have 2 dice that are the same result, you can spend them together as anything you want. When you do that, you're going to get rid of any or all the cards that happen to be at that location, and you'll draw an item. You want to get to this spot now, so this stove door says get to the saloon in 1885. So let's say I get there, because each car can hold 2 items in it. I get there, I can drop this off, but when you drop an item off, you have to, A, make sure there's no problems there, so I'd have to get rid of this problem, and B, if Biff is there, I need to make sure to move them also. There basically needs to be nothing there. That's pretty much it. You're going to be moving around and dropping things off. Now, at the end of a turn, after everyone has gone, then we're going to have the out of time marker is going to move. You're going to look at the timeline that has the most events. So right now it'd be the 1885 timeline. There's 2 different spots there that have these events, and so I'll move it 2. Then you'll also put a paradox token there for each spot that has one. Now in the future, if the same one moved, it would move 2 for having 2 events, and there's 2 paradox tokens there, it would move 2 more. So this timeline can move really far. Now when you deliver an item, it will move 1 back, and you also get an Einstein token. Einstein tokens, you'll turn them over, and it's basically one side of the die that you put here that anybody can use these. One-time uses, you can use them to get the roll that you need. And finally, since this is a time-traveling game, players can also ripple dice. What that means is, if you are in a certain location, you can basically leave a die in that location, and anyone else can use it, or they can use it in any location in the future. So this die can be used here, here, or here, because you're like leaving something there that someone will find in the future. You can't use it in the past, because that's not how time works. And that's it. Players are just going to keep doing this over and over again until they either win by delivering all the items, or until you're out of time, and then you all lose. I really like how the game looks. The colors are nice. The DeLoreans are little plastic DeLoreans going around. These are nice. It's easy to tell which time period's which. The artwork on the cards is fine, if a little, it's just very basic. It's almost like clip art style. I wasn't really thrilled by the fact that the same problem keeps showing up, like Marty skateboards to school, Marty skateboards to school, Marty skateboards to school. I guess that's so you know where to put it, although it's not so easy to see. Marty skateboards to school, this is Marty's house 1985. Well, this picture doesn't match that anyway, so why not have made 3 different problems? There's so many more things they could have added from the deck. When you go through these, the Marty family has rehydrated pizza. Great, but why not something else? Like Marty wears a double tie or something. That's my only minor complaint about it. Other than that, the components are really fine. The Biffs, again, I'm assuming they just didn't have rights to the movie characters or what have you, so there's no facial expressions on them. And even though I did go look it up, this is Mad Dog. This one also looks quite a bit like Chuck Norris. But anyhow, like I said, dice are cool. Everything else is cool. The components work really well. Now, as I said before, I think that time travel is particularly tricky to pull off in a board game. I don't know that there's any board game that's pulled it off perfectly, and this one, it touches it, right, with those ripple dice. You basically can put a die that can be used in the future. And of all the things in this game, that's probably the most interesting and intriguing mechanism that you can find here. The fact that you can leave a die that someone else can use later on. Other than that, the events that show up and you go to the event, you clear out the event, you then pick something up and you go deliver it to some other place, meanwhile punching Biff to make sure he goes away. That stuff it works. And it works with the theme. I would not call this game themeless, although I wouldn't call it strong on theme either. But I wouldn't call it themeless. That stuff works, but at the end of the day, it's nothing really new. I've seen games where you go and you use dice or cards or whatever to accomplish goals, and then you pick something up and move it somewhere else. I wish the theme was a little bit stronger. Now, I get we had a long discussion when we played about, how we're all playing Doc and Marty and you cross each other and there's paradox and stuff like that. And they didn't really cross each other much. They more saw each other. I think the two Jennifers met at one point and knocked each other out. Then there wasn't this huge paradox thing going on like in this game. And also, there's a whole lot more moving through time in this game than there was in the movies per se. But I'm being super picky about that in that regard. I'm just saying that moving around stuff is not the cool thing, it's the rippling of dice. That, however, is mitigated for me by the dice rolling itself. Now, there's dice rolling in lots of games, and I don't mind rolling dice. This game, though, doesn't do it in a way that I found particularly fun. You roll the dice, and this game has a strict turn order, so you go in turn order, and sometimes I might be going first, and I was like, well, I'd prefer, Susan to go first because she can go clear out this area, and then get out, and then I can go and do the task there. But since I'm going first, we're kind of stuck with that. And sometimes you roll the dice, and you just don't get what you want. Yes, you could spend 2 of your 4 dice as a Mr. Fusion to get the lightning bolt to re-roll another die. And in fact, the lightning bolt re-rolling other dice is my least favorite one. Yeah, you get to re-roll another die, but so what? I just didn't find that to be that interesting. There's not a lot of mitigation. You saw that one event there that said you get to re-roll your dice once a turn. That's my favorite event. And so, yes, if you get lucky, and of course, as you start doing well in this game actually gets easier as time goes by because you get more Einstein tokens and you can use those. But I just found that it really kind of depends on the event cards that come out. They might come out in a spot you don't care about. And then just the luck of what you roll. So there's a lot of luck in the game. That doesn't make it a bad game. The game is fine. I found it interesting as we went through. I didn't hate playing it. It was interesting as we move around and do stuff. I didn't get super strong Back to the Future vibes, but I think a lot of people would. A lot of people are going to enjoy this game for what it is. They like that theme and the moving back and forth. But I guess you can quote stuff from the movies, but the story never felt strong. At the end of the day, it felt like I'm picking stuff up and moving it to another spot. It's a cooperative game. It works well. Definitely the number of cards you put there make it easy or not. I can beat it on the normal levels. I have not played with 5 cards. I feel pretty confident we would lose. Each time I've won the game, I felt like we made pretty straightforward decisions. And sometimes we lose because of luck. Sometimes we win, I feel, because of luck. But at the end of the day, it's a typical cooperative game. And that sounds bad to say, and I don't mean that to be a negative against this game. It's just that there's so many cooperative games out there. This one didn't really shine out amongst those. And it relied on luck a little more than I would prefer, and didn't have the theme to kind of hoist that back up. You may love it, though. This is a game I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy. I think this game is going to be widely available for the mass market to buy, and I think it's going to work really well in that someone who likes Back to the Future but doesn't play many games, they're going to pick this up and they're going to enjoy it, and I think that is phenomenally awesome. For me, it was more middle of the road. If you want to play it, I'll play it, but I probably wouldn't suggest it myself. Anyway, that's Back to the Future Dice Through Time. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment, a decent cooperative game.